What's the good word, y'all? DKB here. So our Week 18 matchup against the Miami Dolphins, which wasn't supposed to be for much of anything other than pride and some final development of players. Tony Adams is the one I've been talking about recently that I'm waiting to see what he can go out there and do. But things just got interesting. So there was a rumor that came out, or at least a report from Armando Salguero, who was a former beat reporter for the Miami Dolphins for years, that's claiming that if the Miami Dolphins lose to our New York Jets, owner Stephen Ross is looking to fire Mike McDaniel, the head coach, Chris Greer, the general manager, and Josh Boyers, the defensive coordinator. Now, nothing about that stands out other than the fallout of Mike McDaniel no longer being a head coach in the league, at least for whatever short temporary time that can be, with what he's done with the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa looking like a top 10 quarterback this season within the scheme he's built. 2,000-yard receivers. Raheem Mostert has almost hit 1,000 himself if there's a few more opportunities out there. Things look great for him all in all. You would even say that the collapse of the Miami Dolphins is born more relegated to Josh Boyers and his defense. And the quarterback situation being almost as bad, if not as bad, depending on who you talk to, as the New York Jets, where you're talking about Tua Tagovailoa being out with multiple concussions and some injuries. And then Teddy Bridgewater was supposed to be the guy for you to step up. Veteran presence, can run the offense just as well, if not potentially better to some degree. And he goes out almost almost within a handful of snaps every time he's able to go out there. And so you end up truly having to rely on third stringer Skylar Thompson, who never should have seen the field outside of extreme emergencies. And he's had to do it multiple times now. So you could feel for Mike McDaniel in the situation he's in. I don't think it's extremely likely, but you never know, especially considering the situation they were just coming off of with Brian Flores. But I would welcome the sight of seeing Robert Saleh, Mike LaFleur, and Mike McDaniel on the same coaching staff for the New York Jets, ready to get things together. We kind of mentioned some of the accolades Mike McDaniel is already going to have just by virtue of being a head coach in the NFL. Jalen Waddle over 1,000 yards. Tyreek Hill looked like he was going to reset record books before Tua had his injuries. Raheem Mostert almost going for 1,000 yards. The offensive line having some stable pieces. You even seen the tight ends kind of step up in various situations. He was able to put together an extremely deadly offense vastly quick. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa was on his way out of the door, depending on what he was going to do for this team. Now, there's a part of me that doesn't want to give 100% credit, of course, to Mike McDaniel. It's never a one-man job kind of thing. I do think their secret sauce in that building happens to be their quarterback coach, Darrell Bevell, who's been out here absolutely dominating in his position since like 2000, 2003 when he was with the Packers, his stints with the Detroit Lions, etc., etc. But irregardless, I don't want to take anything away from Mike McDaniel, and I think this would be the perfect marriage that Robert Saleh is looking for, much like we've seen from the player aspect with Laken Tomlinson, although that didn't work itself out. Maybe Mike McDaniel can help recapture his form along with John Benton. Irregardless, though, Mike LaFleur, a lot of what we've seen from him that a lot of people are going to harp on is the fact that he was too pass happy oftentimes throughout the course of this season, especially when we got down early, which happened to have been often, and we had to really try to play hard and, put ourselves back into games. That might not be the same situation that occurs with Mike McDaniel coming in. We're talking about two guys with expertises in their field. Mike LaFleur as a passing game coordinator, Mike McDaniel as a run game coordinator. This could be exactly what Mike LaFleur needs. He hasn't had a veteran guy to bounce his ideas off of, or for somebody to tell him, I don't think this is working, but maybe we can implement this. At least to our knowledge, right? Maybe one of the younger guys is just presenting the idea and it's just not really working out. But Mike McDaniel will be the trusted partner that he can look to and say, hey, here's where we're failing. How would we want to attack this thing to, see some kind of solution to the issue? And Mike McDaniel would have an even more unique perspective facing us for 2 games this season, as he'll automatically know what he was targeting as weaknesses from a quarterback aspect. our run game, different things of that nature. I understand his offense, his expertise is on the offensive side, but still, as a head coach, you're in charge of everything. So it'll be great to kind of see what his thoughts are. And I would love to see him developing behind the scenes Zach Wilson. Tua Tagovailoa is great, but he's really barely a step up from a Mac Jones, who's probably hit his physical, max, if we want to say that. Zach Wilson, he really only needs to get the mental and fundamental part of his game together, which not to downplay it and make it sound simple, but there's a lot of room for growth there just to elevate his floor, and the ceiling is extremely crazy for him. So if we can get him revamped in an accelerated manner between Mike McDaniels and Mike LaFleur, I'm all for it. We also should see a huge boost from Breece Hall. We should see Michael Carter benefit from it. We're talking Zonovan Bam Knight. There's a lot of good that this should do. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I'm curious. I don't think it's likely, as I said, only because of what Mike McDaniel has been able to do in such a short time. Granted, maybe the league would want to see some kind of sustained success there. But I would imagine there's at least one or two guys that would be willing to kick the can and see what Mike McDaniels could do for them. But Dan Quinn comes to mind as a guy that took that time away to go and hopefully hone his craft as a coordinator once again, and then working on what he feels like he maybe felt as a head coach. Maybe Mike McDaniels looks to, take the same course of action, sit on his laurels, really think about what fell apart that maybe he had that control over, and then he attacks things during the next round of head coaching, candidate options being available for himself. But let me tell you guys, if we see the news, I get the ticker, my ESPN app goes off, Mike McDaniels, head coach, fired from the Miami Dolphins, my money is instantly on Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur in Joe Douglas's office, those three linking up, going to Woody Johnson's office, and they are demanding that we pay the man the money and we get him in this building. That'll be the first vital step that I think could pay huge dividends for us. Obviously, one of the main things still is going to be replacing Rob Calabrese as well. But I think this is more an extreme benefit for Mike LaFleur than it is going to be for anything else. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are, and I'll catch you again. Peace.